dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
And you're on Liberty Nation with Mark Angelides and Joe Schaeffer, Liberty Nation's enterprise reporter. Thanks for being here again, Joe. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
So, Joe, you wrote just a fascinating article recently on the pages of libertynation.com, and it was called Defensive Democracy in Europe is Sinister and Darkly Familiar. Now, I know that the vast majority of our audience is heard coast to coast on the Radio American network, so is largely American. But I think it's so important to understand what's happening in Europe to see, well, 2 points. A, what is likely coming down the pipeline for America, and B, what has in some instances already been attempted in America. Do you want to give us an overview of what you wrote about in that fascinating article?
Sure. And I think the way you can tie it with Europe and America is this is a ruling establishment playbook, and they're rolling it out in all the nations of the West. You know, Australia, New Zealand gets a good dose of it too, as we all know. So the article it was about, you know, the alternative for Germany, the populist right party,
The AFD.
the AFD in polling was it won, you know, the most popular support in a survey for the first time. I think that was in April or March. So it was the most popular party in Germany in a national survey. The ruling coalition government, it's a conservative government, but it has the Social Democratic Party, which is like the leftist, but it, you know, established leftist party in Germany. The Social Democratic Party is a junior member of this ruling coalition. So part of the ruling coalition government passed a motion calling for the AFD to be banned, you know, not allowed to run in elections. The most popular party in Germany by polling, because they cited the findings of a ruling government ministry that found the AFD to be extremist. So this is how neat it works. The ruling government coalition cites the ruling government ministry, that the expertists who find this is a dangerous extremist organization, and then therefore the ruling political leaders get to ban their most dangerous opposition. Real nice and tidy if you can get away with it.
Yeah, it's how convenient. The state organ that runs under our government has found that the people who could kick us out of government are too dangerous to be let into government, so therefore stick with us. It's almost comic book how villainous it sounds, and the problem is it's actually reality. And let's broaden this across Europe, and then we'll come back to what has happened in the United States and to some extent what may happen going forward. So you have you mentioned that the AFD, the Alternative for Germany, or Alternative for Deutschland, they came first in a national survey, and I know our listeners out there are thinking it's a poll. However, they're also they have presence within government, but they're kept from power. And this is also partly what's happened in the Netherlands as well, and almost certainly what's also happened in France, is that the other parties have come together to block these, let's call them what they are. They're very much right-wing populist parties, right? That's what they are. To keep them from the levers of power. So in France, you have Marine Le Pen's party, and that she is currently banned from seeking office for 5 years for doing what every single person in the European Parliament was doing. But they're repealing that now. But she may get in and beat Macron, but still yet. But if not, her deputy, Jordan Bardella, I think it is, could be leading that charge. But again, it's this case of the ruling establishment goes ahead with a prosecution against its biggest contender that is most likely to win and knock it from power. And so criminalizing it. Now, in the United Kingdom, my hometown, you have Nigel Farage's Reform Party, and the polling that's come out there, and we're come back to polls. It's not just one poll that puts Nigel Farage's party ahead of all of the other parties. It's every poll. He's a real clear and present danger to the two-party duopoly, the Labour Party and the alleged Conservative Party. And it looks like he's going to receive the most amount of votes if an election were held tomorrow. Now, of course, an election isn't going to be held tomorrow. It's not going to be held because of the Fixed Term Parliament Act until, at the latest, 2029. But people are already talking about, and this is very common in Europe, a rainbow coalition to keep Nigel Farage out of power. So what you'd have is the two main parties that have been in place for 100 years or more coming together to try and form a government against Nigel Farage. And it really goes to show you that this back and forth for the last 100 years, there's not that much difference between the two. If they want to come together and work together to stop Nigel Farage upsetting the duopoly. And so this is these parliamentary tricks, these political tricks, and these lawsuits, and as we started off with, these government institutes warning against a certain political parties that threaten the status quo parties. We've seen it in the US as well, haven't we?
Well, yeah, I was going to say, thank God that wouldn't happen here. Oh, that's what it already did. And,
Yeah.
the most prominent example all our listeners remember very well is in the 2024 presidential election, Colorado's Secretary of State, Jenna Griswold, and just an open Democrat partisan, tried to get Trump removed from the ballot in her state. And how did she do it? She cited the findings of federal judges who are openly antagonistic to Trump, who declared he is an insurrectionist. So, well, we've got these official findings, he's an insurrectionist, and I know that I can keep insurrectionists off the ballot. Therefore, I can put my political enemy off the ballot. And she got the Colorado State Supreme Court to actually go along with this. This is how dangerous it is. It's amazing that it actually got that far, and the U.S. Supreme Court, overturned it. Of course, Trump got 1.5 million votes, or 45% of the vote or something. So we're talking about over 1 million people in Colorado being disenfranchised by these actions, and it's done by citing these official government findings, declaring their political opposition to be extremist, insurrectionist, however you want to call it.
Yeah, it's now here's the thing that so many people fail to take into account when they're getting involved in these kind of shenanigans, is that if you do it to somebody, somebody will do it to you. And so the idea that somebody can be barred from running for office based on partisan nonsense, really. Let's call it what it is. A partisan setup is, it's anathema to how any country should be run. It's not civilized. Is my issue with it. It's just not civilized.
But you have to go much further than that. You can't just ban the political party. You've got to define the entire information spectrum. That's why they focus on disinformation so much.
Sure.
The second half of that article that I wrote focused on in France, where Emmanuel Macron, the establishment president of the country, said that there is a tyranny of the news, is the words, where you can take facts, and extremists, what they declared extremists, can amplify facts into something dangerous. Therefore, we have to suppress those facts in order to defend our democracy. And what he was talking about is illegal aliens, the migrant crisis in Europe. These people, it's common, the crimes they commit.
Yep.
If those crimes are reported in the media, that emboldens the extremists and that threatens democracy. Therefore, we have to prevent these facts from being platformed at the major media. And it's like, whoa, that would never happen in America. Of course, we know that happened with Facebook and Twitter during the Biden years. It's still happening. They still want it to happen. Barack Obama just gave a speech June 17th in Connecticut where he said, everyone's entitled to their opinion, but you are not entitled to have what you think are the facts amplified on big media and social media platforms. So they want to have the ability to define the facts of themselves, how they're presented to the people, and anything, even if it's factually correct, anything that is a danger to their established power, they can declare out of bounds in the name of saving democracy. And they really think this way, and they want to do it. They already tried to do it. They are going to keep trying to do it in America again. And that is the big warning for Europe. It's not going away. It hasn't stopped. These people are going to keep doing this again in America sooner rather than later.
We're going to take this conversation to another level and repeat Johnny Cash's infamous question. What is truth? After this short break, don't go anywhere.
We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.